So let us continue the discussion which has been going on the topic value of supply. If you remember, we have covered section 15 subsection 1, 2 and 3 which deals with transaction value. That means where the price actually paid by the recipient becomes the value of supply after some adjustments. We were discussing 15 subsection 4 where if it is not possible to take the actual price paid or payable as the value of supply, then section 15 subsection 4 will tell you in some cases how to determine the value of supply. So through section 15 subsection 4 we will refer some rules. 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. Already two rules have been referred in the last lecture, 27 and 28. Rule 27 tells me the value of supply to be determined when the consideration was not wholly in money. Rule 29 was telling me, Rule 28 was telling me the value of supply when the supply is between two related persons, but excluding agent. Because for agent, supply between principal and agent is having a special rule, Rule 29. So my Rule 27 and 28 were over in the last lecture, and let me start now discussing with you Rule 29, where I will tell you how to determine the value of supply if the supply is happening through the agent. So today's discussion will start from Rule 29. These sections are over, and we were discussing 15.4. Within this, 27 and 28 rule are over. Now let me discuss with you Rule 29. Determination of value of supply. Of goods. Now this covers only goods made or received, because agent can act in both the ways. Agent can become a supplier for the principal, agent can become a recipient for the principal. Agent can supply the goods which is given by the principal. Agent can purchase the goods for the principal. So agent can act in both the way, as a supplier as well as the recipient. That is why I have written goods, value of supply of goods made or received through an agent. So there are two different situations. Now, first situation is if open market value of the goods is available. Now, as the rule increases, the situation decreases. If you remember in Rule 27, there were 4 different situations. In Rule 28, there were 3 different situations. Now in Rule 29, there are only 2 situations. Now, it has no relationship. It is only to learn so that in future you know if in the examination such questions come, at least it can give you an idea that how many rules, how many situations are there in these different rules. So rules increase, situation decreases. Now first is if open market value is available, then the best answer is this open market value, or you can say only answer is this open market value. So what is the value of supply? Open market value is the value of supply. Very simple. But another option is also available. If these goods, now this another option is same as we have covered in the last lecture, where I have told you in Rule 28, 90% of the price charged by the recipient from his customers. If you remember that point, the same point is applicable here. If these goods are intended for further supply as such by the recipient, then it is optional, not compulsory, it is optional for the supplier to take 90% of the price charged for the supply of like kind and quality goods. By the recipient from his customers. The same concept I have already discussed in another rule which we have covered earlier, Rule 28. Provided recipient and his customer are unrelated parties. Is unrelated. If the goods are intended for further supply as such by the recipient. Now who is the recipient here? Agent. Then it is optional for the supplier to take 90% of the price charged for supply of like kind and quality goods by the recipient from his customer, provided recipient and his customer is unrelated. Now let me discuss this with the help of an example. Only then you can understand this. Mr. A, principal. He supplies some goods to Mr. B, agent of Mr. A. He supplies some goods to Mr. B, agent of Mr. A, at rupees 3000, for example, 3000 per kg. There were some goods which were supplied at 3000 per kg. Mr. B has supplied the same goods which have been received from Mr. A to Mr. C at rupees 4000 per kg. An agent has supplied not the same goods but like kind and quality goods to Mr. D at rupees 5,000 per kg. I hope the concept you are understanding. I have purchased some product which is available. I have purchased some oil, for example, which is available at 3,000 per kg from I means Mr. B. I'm thinking from agent's point of view. Mr. B's point of view. I have purchased it for rupees 3,000 per kg from Mr. A. The same oil Mr. B has supplied to Mr. C at 4,000 per kg, but similar oil Mr. B has supplied to Mr. D at 5,000 per kg. My question is that I'm not concerned about determining the value of supply between B and C or B and D. Between B and C, I'm not concerned about determining the value of supply for Mr. B. Similarly, between Mr. B and Mr. D, I'm not concerned about right now to determine the value of supply for Mr. B. My purpose is to determine the value of supply of Mr. A. Rule 28 talks about this. It will tell me what should be value of supply in the hands of Mr. A. When supply happens between Mr. A and the agent, Mr. B, B and C and B and D, between those two, B and C and B and D, relationship of principal agent is not existing, and that is why I am not following rule 28 for such supplies. I am following rule 28 for the supply between principal and agent. Now the question is, what should be the value of supply when rupees 3,000 per kg product has been transferred by the principal to the agent? Answer is what? Is open market value available? Let me assume that there is another party, Mr. K. Let me assume that there is another party, Mr. K. Mr. K is also supplying the product to Mr. B, but now Mr. B is not the agent of K. K is independent supplier, and the product is supplied at rupees 4,550 rupees per kg. I hope you are getting my point. Principal Mr. A is supplying the product, the oil, at 3,000 per kg to Mr. B. Another person, Mr. K, with whom Mr. B has no relationship as a related person, is supplying the same oil at 4,550 per kg to B. Now, is this open market value? Answer is yes. What is open market value? Price between unrelated buyer and unrelated seller, and price is the sole criteria. Mr. A and B are related. So whatever price they are charging, it is not a genuine price. It is biased price. It may be biased. It may be biased. I'm not saying that it is biased. It may be biased because these are related parties. But the price which is charged between K and B is the open market value because K and B has no relationship. They are not related parties. Between them, whatever is the price charged for the same quantity, for the same oil, is rupees 4,550. So it is the open market value, and if the open market value is available, the value of supply is how much? 4,550. This is one thing. Please raise your hand if the question till this point is clear. Next point now. But we have another option available. Now this value of supply is in whose hands? In the hands of A. Now suppose Mr. A says that you are doing injustice, it is wrong, why you are charging 45.50 as the value. This is what which A can say, that no, it is wrong way to compute. I am giving the oil at 3000 per kg, so why you are treating the value of supply as 4550 in my hands? Why? Government says no issue. If you think that it is wrong or it is highly valued, then let us take the value which will show you the genuineness with a different way. So government or the act says to Mr. A that since that look, Mr. A, you and B are related parties, so we cannot trust the price which you are charging in reality. You tell us one thing, your recipient who is Mr. B, at what rate he is selling the similar oil to his customers. They are not saying that the same oil to his customer at what rate that person Mr. B is selling. So I'm not concerned with this 4000 per kg. That was the same oil. I want to know the similar oil, not same, similar. So this is what the act says to Mr. A. Look, Mr. A, you tell us the price which is actually charged by your recipient from his customers, and make sure your recipient and his customer must not be related. Then we will say, government says that then we can say that the price charged by your recipient is genuine. Now, is Mr. B and Mr. D related? Is Mr. B and Mr. D related? Answer is no, they are not related. And what price recipient is charging from his customer? 5000 per kg. So government says another option is value supply in the hands of Mr. A. Now in reality, A has no relationship with this value, but still it can help you in determining the value. It will be 90% of the price which is charged by your recipient from his customers for the similar goods. So that will give you 4500. Now why 90%? Because normally it is assumed that 10% is the profit margin. So normally when if B is selling to Mr. D at 5000 per kg, normally it is assumed that at least 10% B might have also earned. At least 10% a supplier will earn on any sale. So this will become the cost of Mr. B. 4500 is nothing, the cost of Mr. B, and if it is the cost of Mr. B, by default it is the sale value of Mr. A. So government says that if you think that 4550 is not genuine, then in our view, based upon the facts and figure available, 4500 is the genuine value of supply in your hand. So in the hands of Mr. A, this is another option. So it is now for Mr. A to decide whether he wants to take 4550 or 4500, but no third option is available. That's it. If the concept is clear, please raise your hands. Any doubt you can ask. Okay, now let me discuss the same example with a small change. And the small change is what? If you remember what was happening in this example. What was happening in this example was Mr. A principal supplied goods to Mr. B agent. Price was 3000 per kg. Mr. K, another person supplied the same oil at 4500 per 4550 per kg. Now suppose there is no supplier, another supplier. Suppose this was not the case. The change is what? The same principal is supplying the product to Mr. N, same oil at rupees 4,300 per kg. Now the question is, what is the open market value? Open market value simply says that supplier and the recipient must not be related. They must be unrelated party. And between them, price is the only, or you can say, sole consideration. In last example, this condition was fulfilled because in last example, supplier was Mr. K and recipient was Mr. B. In this example also the condition is fulfilled, but now the supplier becomes whom? Mr. A, and independent recipient becomes Mr. N. In that case, the open market value was 4550, and now the open market value is 4300. I simply wanted to show you that when you determine the open market value, it does not mean that the agent, between agent and another supplier, is the supply between these two will only give you open market value. No, what I want to say is that between the principal and another person, this value can also give me the open market value. That's it. With this, my situation 1 is clear. Please raise your hand if the concept is. Now next point. So I have discussed with you my first situation. Still we have second situation. Suppose the open market value is not available, then what will you do? If the value is not available, then what option you have? Then the value will be determined by applying rule 30 and rule 31 in that order. If open market value of goods being supplied is not available, then value of supply will be determined by applying rule 30 and 31 in that order. This is what now I will discuss with you. Now if you remember rule 27, there also I told you that if the value cannot be determined, apply rule 30 and 31 in order. Same language I used in rule 27. Rule 28 also value cannot be determined, apply rule 30 and 31 in order. In rule 29 I am using the same language. If it is not possible to determine the value as per rule 29, and if all the options are exhausted, then apply rule 30 and 31 in order. So now let us discuss rule 30 and 31 now. So what is rule 30? It simply says that if you don't have any option available now, so rule 30 is very simple. It simply says that determination of value of supply on the basis of cost. On the basis of cost. Now what is this base? It's very logical that if I am a supplier and purchasing the goods for 100 rupees, at least I will earn 10% profit margin. So what will be the value of supply in supplier hands? $110% of his cost, that's it. this becomes the value of supply. So if you don't have any option, at least this is the best possible option available. Please raise your hand if you have understood case 30. Not case 30, rule 30. Rule 31 now. Determination of value of supply. In residuary cases, or not residuary cases, I should use rather residuary method. Residuary cases word will cover every service, which is not the case. Residuary method I should use. Residuary method for determining the value of supply. Now suppose if supplier doesn't know his cost, though it is almost impossible that supplier doesn't know the cost, but in case, for example, all the records are destroyed and nothing is available, if supplier doesn't know the cost, then what option you have? Then it's very simple and there is no calculation given. Only theory is written under Rule 31 that where it is not possible, that means if it is not possible to determine the value of supply, in under previous rule, that means under rule 27, 28, 29 and 30, if it is not possible, then value of supply will be determined using reasonable means which are consistent with the provisions of section 15 as well as in consistence with the provisions given under rule 27 to 35. That's it. So nothing is written as far as calculation is concerned. It simply says that apply the logic and rational view. In case if nothing is possible to compute as far as value supply is concerned, read the provisions of section 15, read all the rules and take the best possible decision in this way. So it's open-ended rule basically. That's it. But rule 31 talks very interesting thing, and that is, now there can be supply of goods or services or both. Anything can be supplied, goods, services or both. In case of goods, it is compulsory to first apply rule 30, and then if you don't get the answer, then you go to rule 31. You cannot skip rule 30. Always in the previous rules I have written in that order, but in supply of service there is a freedom available. It's not compulsory to apply rule 30 first. Can directly go to rule 31. This is what the point is. With this I cover section 15.4. Any problem you please ask, otherwise I'm starting with section 15.5. Or not 15.5, let me first discuss one more point. Let me discuss one more interesting point. Let me discuss one more rule, lottery. That is also interesting. But the concepts are also almost over. Let me discuss one another special rule, rule 31A. Determination of value of supply in case of lottery, betting, gambling, and horse racing. Now for this also we have a special rule, rule 31A, lottery, betting, gambling, and horse racing. So let me divide it in two categories. For lottery we have a different concept. For betting, gambling, and horse racing I have a different rule. Now when you purchase lottery ticket, see lottery in India is a regulated industry. State government has the power to deal with lottery system. And what happens in lottery is that people believe on the basis of luck only. So many people will purchase some tickets, for example 100 rupees the cost of one ticket on which we are having some number. So 1 lakh people will purchase lottery ticket of 100 rupees and approximately the amount collected will be 1 crore. And in the lucky draw, if any number comes, so for example they are having first prize, second prize, third prize. First prize will be 10 lakh, second prize 5 lakh, third prize 1 lakh, that's it. There will be some small prizes, for example 1000 only, but 300 people will get it. But in spite of incurring all such prizes, still so much amount is left with the supplier, that means government. So this is why some state governments are in lottery, like Punjab. In Punjab government we have this lottery. In Sikkim also we have this lottery. In Goa also I think we have this lottery. Otherwise in most of the states there is no lottery system. But some state government deals with lottery system. So when you purchase a ticket of 100 rupees, technically you are availing these services of lottery. It's a supply of service. So in this 100 GST is included. Now GST in case of lottery is 28%. So how do you determine the value of supply in case of lottery? The value of supply in case of lottery is higher of the two amounts. Higher of what? First, 100 by 128 multiplied by face value of ticket. If ticket is of 1000 rupees, then 1000 includes lottery GST, includes GST. So technically I can say that 1000 divided by 120, because it includes 28% GST, into 100 will become the value of supply. Or 100 divided by 128 multiplied by the price which is notified by the state government. By the organizing state. Organizing state means the state government which is conducting this lottery. Price notified by the organizing state. So whichever is the higher is the value of supply of service. This is what is there in lottery system, that you purchase a ticket and whosoever ticket comes out in the lottery through random selection, that person is the winner. But you know, such things doesn't happen in betting, gambling, and horse racing. In horse racing, what is happening? You are not purchasing any ticket. Your direct horse is running Different horses with different numbers are running, and you are simply investing the amount. You are betting. That is known as bet. That my horse number 10 will win. It is a bet. So in that case, how do you determine the value of supply? It is 100%, because whatever amount you are betting, suppose you say that I want to bet 1 lakh rupees and my horse number 7 will come. That 1 lakh does not include GST. Okay, you have to pay GST etc. Extra, or the supplier will pay GST. How they will arrange, that is between supplier and the recipient. But whatever is the face value of the bet amount, 100% off the face value of the bet. Suppose 1 lakh rupees you have bet. So 1 lakh is the value of supply multiplied by GST rate of 28%. 28,000 will be the GST on this bet. Or 100% of the amount paid to totalizer. So totalizer is a machine basically. Here also higher off. Or not higher, because in this case only one thing will happen. Yes, not higher. Either you are betting the amount directly, or you are through machine you are dealing in this betting or gambling. In horse race you are betting the amount. Here your amount directly paid to this totalizer. Totalizer is basically a machine. It's an electronic equipment. It collects the bet amount. It pulls or collects the bet amount. But in this bet amount, after deducting charges and taxes, it collects the bet amount after deduction of charges and taxes and distribute this remaining amount amongst the winners. That's it. So in some cases you directly bet the amount where humans are involved, and if not humans are involved, then you pay the amount directly for this machine totalizer, where automatically your charges will be deducted and remaining amount will be distributed amongst the winners. So whatever amount is given, that is the value of supply on which extra GST will be given to the government. This is the concept of determining the value of supply in case of lottery, betting, gambling and horse racing. After this now, my last section, section 15, subsection 5, after this my value of supply concept is over. Now this section is optional. Why I am saying it is optional? The main section is 15.1, where actual price paid or payable is the value of supply. In this actual price, I make some adjustments through 15.2 and through 15 subsection 3. This is the first priority of determining value of supply, or first category you can say. If 15.1 is not applicable, if it is not applicable, then the value of supply is determined under section 15.4. Remember, if not applicable, directly I cannot go to 15.4. If it is not applicable, then value of supply is determined under 15.4. Now, one thing is sure with this discussion, that both these subsections cannot be applied. You cannot simultaneously use 15.1 and 15.4. You cannot. Either you have to use this, because if this is used, you cannot apply this. If this is not used, then only you have to apply this. So Either you are using 15.1 or you are using 15.4, any one thing will happen. Both the sections gives some value. But government says that this value or this value, whatever is the case, in some cases we are giving you the option under section 15.5. This 15.5 will also give some value of supply. Okay, 15.5 is also giving me some value of supply, but government says that whatever value of supply you have determined under 15.1 or 15.4, as the case may be, you can compare that value as per the value which is determined under section 15.5, and then you can choose which option is better. It's your choice. Supplier, through supply to the suppliers, this is what the act says, that you determine the value of supply as per section 15.1. If 15.1 is not applicable, then of course you will determine under section 15.4. But whatever is the case, whether 15.1 or 15.4, we are giving you one optional section, 15.5. Determine the value of supply as per the method which is given under 15.5, and then you take your decision whether you want to opt for the value 15.1 or for 15.5, or you want to opt for the value determined under section 15.4 or 15.5. The point is that under 15.5 only selected supplies are covered. This is the point, that this is not applicable for all the supplies. Under 15.5 only special cases of supply are covered. Only special cases of supplies are covered. That is the only point. It does not cover everything. So if I give you a few examples, money changing supply, money changing service is also covered here. It's only an example till I discuss with you the detail. Money changing service, what? Suppose you want to go to any airport where you want to go to any foreign country, you have to convert your Indian rupee into the currency of that foreign country. It's money changing service. So the supplier, like Western Union, is the renowned supplier of money changing. So Western Union will give you dollars, for example, if you want to convert rupee into dollar. For that giving, they are charging some service charge. That service charge is nothing but value of supply. How to determine it? That is another question. Similarly, air tickets, purchasing air tickets through the agents, it's a supply of service and it is covered under 15.5. So in all these cases, I can also determine the value of supply as per 15.1. If not 15.1, then as per 15.4. But I have another option available to determine the such supply service under section, to determine the value of such services under 15.5 also, and then it's my right to decide which option is better for me. Is the discussion clear that what 15.5 is? Please raise your hand if the concept you have understood. Okay. So the remaining discussion I will do in the next class, that what supplies are covered under 15.5. So the next discussion will be which supplies are covered under 15.5. Next question will be, what are the special rules? What are those special rules? Which are covered under section 15.5. That's it. So these two will wind up my topic, value of supply. So that I will discuss in the next class, and most probably I will try though it is a little bit difficult also in the next class to cover this chapter because these are lengthy rules. So still I will try to cover the maximum possible concepts in the next class to determine the value of special supplies through special rules under section 15 subsection 5. That's all from my side. Goodbye.